Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I am Dr. Edward Summers, and let's queer up the US view. According to Meta, Facebook, and Instagram, gay people could be mentally ill? Yesterday on Queer News Tonight, you learned about the Mark Zuckerberg's Meta announcement of ending its fact-checking partnerships in the United States. And within a few hours, the LGBTQ community started facing the adverse consequences of Meta's controversial decision. The changes are allowing users to label gay people as mentally ill, describe women as property, and refer to transgender individuals as it. However, Meta is defending its decision, saying the move aims to reduce concerns about teen bias. The updated hate speech policy still bans dehumanizing speech and harmful stereotypes, but permits exceptions. Meta is allowing allegations of mental illness or abnormalities based on gender or sexual orientation. Historically, homosexuality was wrongly classified as a mental disorder until it was removed over 50 years ago. Advocacy groups warn these policy changes will fuel discrimination and even violence. The platform insists it's working to balance free expression with safety. Queer activists, however, urge stronger protections amid rising hate crimes. As debates rage, Meta's policies leaves marginalized groups questioning their safety online. I'm glad that Queer News Tonight is covering this. I'm glad that they covered this yesterday. There's so much to unpack here with this story, but my fear is what we've already seen, particularly in our previous elections with misinformation. There has the potential to have so much misinformation out there to create false narratives, to mislead the populace, to mislead voters, to amplify political polarization, and to really undermine democratic institutions. That's a big thing for me. I'm here. Obviously, this opens us up to vulnerability for foreign influencers. We've seen that in the past as well, where people have tried to influence things like elections. I think it opens us up again to that. And I really do think that this limits people's full participation in our democracy. When you have the potential to spread false information, people go off of those informations. They make decisions based off that false information, and it limits your ability to fully participate in a democracy because you don't know what's fact and what's fiction. So there's a lot of harm that could come in this. The one thing that I think about having young children is the potential for bullying. And we know, and we've seen previous studies where there are correlations between bullying and suicide or attempted suicide. And so I'm worried that this could have that potential. And we know kids can be tough, in terms of how they deal with each other, interact with each other. And I'm just worried and concerned about this policy shift from Meta and just kind of opening up and saying that they're trying to protect free expression while also safety. To me, it's just, this is this Trumpian way of thinking that, like, you know what, let's just open up and leave it open. Who cares? Right. Is the signal that I'm getting, quite frankly. Let's just lax our security measures and just let people go ham and say whatever they want to say. And I'm just really concerned about this.
The last time Donald Trump was in office, and it hurts me to say that, we failed ourselves. While this reflects greatly about who our president is and the state of our democracy and the people that run our country, it speaks a lot about who we are. Because we're the ones in power without realizing it. Now, we fail ourselves when we don't treat people with the same respect that we demand and act out on. I mean, we're failing ourselves. As part of the gay community, I've consistently on this show, whenever appropriate, stated that we need to have a come to Jesus meeting, and we need to have the choir in place and all the people sitting in those pews, not dressed to show off, not dressed to get attention, not dressed to do battle. We're here to share our minds and know what the state of our community is. Because the more we sit and stand in our bars, the more we go to the drag shows, the more that we go to the softball games, the more we entertain ourselves until we come together as an honest group of people, realizing that we have a difference of opinion in every way, shape, or form, until we mobilize ourselves to say, this is who we are, this is what we want, this is where we want to go, and we look for that vision of where we want to go. We're just going to spin our wheels, because right now, as far as I'm concerned, the gay community is nothing but bars and drag shows and and reality TV shows and the drama of it all.
Well, we have to act like a community.
And we're not.
Right.
We're not. We're not organized politically.
Right.
We do show up 20 minutes before a vote, but the rest of the 4 years,
They're not paying attention.
we're not paying attention because we're too worried about
Right.
having fun and being out and being gay and being whatever that means.
Well, I can't take my attention away from Zuckerberg and his cheap-ass Tony Homeburn. And that man is so desperate for the affection he never got from his parents that he's willing to sacrifice the safety of others just so he can get close to Papa Trump, regardless of the old guy's lack of personal hygiene.
It's not just being next to him, it's how much more money
Of course,
can he make.
yes, he's buddying up to him.
The money grab.
So this makes me think a little bit about, we talked about, I think Project 2025, when you talk about removing all these restrictions and based on what Meta was saying. But I'm thinking back to, and Edward, you might know this story or whatever, but I saw not so long ago, it was an interview with a therapist in a group session. And there was a young man sitting there and he was talking about, my red button was right here and you're not to push my red button. And the whole time, everyone's talking to me, they're pushing my red button. And the therapist looked at him and said, why do you have the button there for them to push to begin? And it makes me think, why are we letting them push our buttons?
But that's why we need to have a community state of the community address going, here we are, this is where we're going, this is what we have, this is our strength, this is our weakness, this is what we need to work on.
Right.
Safety in numbers.
Right.
Yes.
And we also need to have, by whether it's nominating or people stepping up, a step up in leadership. I mean, going back to what I saw, in the late 80s and 90s and organizing, we need to see more of that. We need more, people who can speak like a Pete Buttigieg on Fox News and really just speak factually, not get flustered and hold their own.
We also need to train ourselves to know what that speech is. Gay marriage is not about religion. Gay marriage is about legalities and healthcare and inheritance and the sharing of finances and taxation. Has nothing to do with your form of Jesus.
Right. Right.
I love a lot of the points, and Buddy, your point of the state of the community. You've been raising alarm for a while now, and I think it's so important. I do think that there's a perception of who we are as a gay community, and then what happens. The perception is, we like bars and that's all we are, but there's so much work that does happen in our community, but yet we don't support it, right?
At the levels that we need to support it.
Right, because I think about, SAVE, I think about Equality Florida, I think about Safe Schools, I'm a part of several coalitions that are having conversations about, all right, what are we going to do? Like, how do we coalesce our community?
But we also need to rekindle that fire that was lit by ACT UP, by Queer Nation, by those people, by those activists.
But it's not only that, we're more than just the community sitting around this table. We also are part of my neighborhood. I live in the burbs. I don't live in a gay neighborhood. I live in the suburbs.
That's right.
I'm still a part of that community. We need to be a part of the whole world as well as we sit in our neighborhoods.
Absolutely. Vaughn and I before the show was talking about I'm having conversations with Congressman Richie Torres from the Bronx, who's a part of a coalition of LGBTQ elected officials, and Vaughn was asking a question like, are you what are you saying? Like, how are we reframing it? Are we starting to talk more broadly, or are we just talking about LGBTQ issues? And to your point, I've started to write a little bit about this, about just framing it more broadly about, democratic principles, right? Like humanitarian issues. And so it's important that we do not just frame it as LGBTQ, but we are part of the much broader
We're part of the human
community.
race.
The fabric,
But we need, to your point, Larry, we need to bring the entire community. It's got to be more than the 50-plus-year-old.
That's right.
You're right.
It's got to be more than, the younger generation needs to be educated in an intelligent way, so it's not sarcastic and demonstrative. I mean, it's like we all have to realize that, young man, you've got your right to walk down the street with your boyfriend's hand in the middle of a straight neighborhood and expect that no one's going to bother you because of what I
The
do.
history.
Right.
Yeah,
Or
they don't know
people
the history.
people before me.
Yes.
So let's take it serious. Let's take ourselves seriously.
And it's gotta-
financially and politically.
It's got to stop being the same people doing it.
Exactly.
That's what we
That's
do
what-
find,
That's
right?
part of the problem.
You have to find
That's
the
that reach one,
Yeah,
teach one.
yeah,
Let's start
yeah.
And that's
teaching
my
them, like
point.
you said, right?
We need to get the arena
Yeah.
full of people and say, enough with, yeah, we want to have fun, but Jesus Christ, we have to work.
That's work too.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I love this notion, and unfortunately, Kamala Harris used to say it in the campaign, but you are right, she's right. The power is with the people.
It
We the
is.
Yes.
people,
Yep.
and that's what democracy is.
You know?
The bedrock is we the people. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.